And it's a movie unlike any other and has made headlines around the world. Made in France predicted the Paris attacks years before they happened. And interestingly enough, it was originally supposed to come out in Paris 5 days after the November 13th Islamic State attacks, but afterwards it ended up being banned. Maya Margit went to the premiere and filed this report.
Ce sera sur les Champs-Élysées.
A prophetic film, banned in France and now screening in Israel for the first time. Made in France premiered at the Tel Aviv Cinematheque on Tuesday.
Je m'appelle Sam El Kansouri. Je suis journaliste.
In the film, Sam is an investigative journalist who decides to go undercover to infiltrate a terror cell in the heart of Paris. Led by a fanatical Islamic convert named Hassan, the group receives orders from a faceless boss to place a bomb at the Champs-Élysées. According to Hassan, the attack is just the beginning in a string of terrorist acts across France. The story may sound familiar, but French filmmaker Nicolas Boukrieff wrote it years before the Islamic State-linked attacks in Paris last year. At the Tel Aviv premiere, over 200 people packed the theater, standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of the real-life victims.
I brought it to Israel for Israeli audiences, first and foremost. Besides, it gives a point that Islam is not necessarily or entirely the reason behind terrorism. There are social economics reasons, personal reasons.
Islamic extremists in the film don't understand anything about what the imams say to them. They are just guessing, but they are sure that they want to do something for the glory of Islam and for their Muslim brothers.
Originally slated to air in early 2015, the film's release date was pushed back after terrorists struck the offices of the Charlie Hebdo magazine, as well as a Jewish supermarket, killing 17 people. The new release date? November 18, 2015. Posters of the film, depicting a Kalashnikov rifle superimposed over the Eiffel Tower, were put up all throughout the Paris metro. On November 13, 2015, just 5 days before Made in France's scheduled premiere, Islamist terrorists went on a rampage across Paris in a series of coordinated attacks. More than 130 people were killed. And Boukrieff's film was banned from theatrical release across France. In fact, it still never aired in cinemas there.
It's very troubling and somewhat traumatic. It's weird to feel sad about having been right. As we were shooting the film, the Islamic State began to emerge. In fact, in the movie we talk about Al-Qaeda because IS didn't exist then. It was very worrisome because I was shooting. I would go home at night and watch the news, and I would see the subject of my film becoming a reality.
But even though most countries have still not released Made in France, Frey believes the public should see it.
The film needs to be shown. In many ways, it really shows a difference between Islam and fanaticism, so that's important to bring across.
As for the film's director, he wishes he had been wrong, saying he would have rather prevented than predicted the horrors that unfolded since across France.
And joining us in studio is Maya Margit, I-24 News correspondent, who was at that film premiere. Thanks so much for being here, Maya. Also with us is Dr. Vili Abraham of Superior Academic College. Thanks for being here. We will get to you shortly. Maya, let's begin with you. The movie was supposed to come out in France just 5 days after the attacks in November. It's just amazing, the timing of all of this. So it's understandable that French authorities would not want to release this film around this time. But why did they ban it indefinitely?
Well, I think part of the reason is that the film hit too close to home. It went from being fiction, completely fictional, to becoming really close to reality. And it's really interesting because the posters of the film, which we saw in the report, the Kalashnikov over the Eiffel Tower, the slogan of the film was "The threat comes from within." And this poster was hung up all throughout the Paris metro just 24 hours before the Paris attacks.
That's so creepy. It actually gives me the chills.
And the director, when he heard about the attacks, he said, okay, we have to take down all the posters. They took down all the posters. The distributor said, okay, that's it. We're not airing this film. The director of the film was in agreement with the distributor not to direct it. And it's also interesting because it's before the Islamic State. The script for the film was written when Al-Qaeda was the big terrorist group. So he doesn't even reference Daesh or the Islamic State in the film. He just references Al-Qaeda.
But he completely predicted all of this. It's really unreal. What are people saying about this film, Maya?
Well, when I went to the premiere, it was mostly French Israelis in the theater, and I think it was a very tense kind of premiere because people were really they really wanted to see the film because they hadn't. It is available online on VOD in France, but most people have not seen the film. So there was a lot of tension, I think, at the premiere, and most people watched it and they thought it was quite interesting to see the parallels between the film and what actually happened. But I think at the same time that the film is maybe not as shocking as it was when he wrote the script, Boukrieff, because right now we've seen many attacks happen across Europe and in France especially. So maybe in some ways the film and the plotline is a little bit dated.
Maya, thanks so much for this and for telling us about the premiere itself. And